Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Megan if you're new here, and today I'm going to be sharing with you some of my favorite homeschool curriculum from over the years. So hang tight and let's get started. Now, as I stated at the beginning of the video, I am going to be sharing some favorite homeschool curriculum based on different subjects that we have used and different titles we have used throughout the years. This is our 8th year of homeschooling, and so I feel like we have a pretty good understanding of some different curriculum out there. However, I do want to add this caveat. While these are some of my favorite curriculum that I have used over the years, it does not mean that they are the best for your particular child. Some of these work great for some of my children and some of them didn't work quite as well. I'll explain that in a little bit, but they are some of the favorites that I have used over the years. It's really important, I think, that we just really know our kids, what their learning style is, what our teaching style is, and really just find something that works well for our family. And so with all of that said, I do want to let you know that this is a collaboration, which is great for you guys if you are on the search for some people's favorite curriculum, because there's a bunch of us mamas sharing our favorite. And so while some of these might not work for your child, somebody else in the playlist might have some that work for your child or your style of teaching or whatever your needs are. Like I said, it is a collaboration. It's hosted by my friend Ryan over at Mama on Mission. She is one of my really good friends. She has 4 boys and she shares a lot of homeschooling content, also biblical motherhood, womanhood, and she just has so much wisdom in both homeschooling and just womanhood in general. So make sure you check out her channel, and I will also stick the playlist link down below. So let's get started with these favorite curriculum. Either way, let's get started. So what subject to start with? I have so much stuff surrounding me right now, but I'm going to start with the easy one for me. So this, I have actually done, I think, 2 or 3 different videos on this math curriculum, but it is Christian Light Education, mathematics, and this has worked extremely well for us. I'm not going to go into great depth because I do have other videos regarding it. So I will just stick a link to those videos down in the description below if you want to see more inside and hear more in depth. But basically, this is, in my opinion, it is a more spiral-based math curriculum, which means your skills build on top of each other and you're constantly kind of coming back around and reviewing. But it's also a good combination really of a spiral and also a mastery focused curriculum, which would be like you drill it till you know it kind of thing. And so this has worked extremely well for all of my school age children. Currently right now, 4 of my kids are homeschool age, and this has worked wonderful for all 4 of them. We have given a few other curriculum tries over the years. Another one that we really liked that would definitely probably be in my favorites is actually Singapore Math. I think we did Singapore Math Essentials with my oldest until he was in 2nd grade, and we really enjoyed that one as well. I think it's wonderful for teaching math to those beginning years. And then we transitioned him into this. We've also tried teaching textbooks, and we have also done Saxon, which is another great one as well. However, for us, Saxon was a little dry. It is very thorough, but it's a little dry and it's tons of review. But it is still a great curriculum. But for us, this is our pick for best math curriculum. Sorry if you hear a little one in the background. I have a 2-year-old that is fighting his nap right now. And so I did want to say though, this is the teacher book. There's usually 2 of these, and each unit of math is in like its own separate workbook called a light unit, and it has all of the things that they will learn along with a couple of quizzes and a unit test. This works great for keeping track of grades as well. And it's just, in my opinion, just a great and thorough math curriculum. And like I said, I have done other videos on it. So if you want to see inside, if you want to see what a lesson looks like, all of those things, I will put links to those videos down in the description. So let's talk about language arts and reading. So this is a big one, I feel like. And I feel like the list is just endless with what is the best reading program? What is the best language arts program? So on and so forth. Now, this is very specific also to what your style of homeschooling is. Some people, and there's nothing wrong with this, but some people just want to choose something that's more school-like, which is your curriculum like a Becca or Bob Jones, that's going to be really thorough with phonics and reading and language arts and all that kind of stuff. But it is very traditional in its approach. I tend not to lean that way so much, except for this Learning to Read series, which is definitely a top pick for me. Again, it is from Christian Light Publication, Christian Light Education, whatever you want to call it. I have also done a video on this. This is just really, really thorough. It's very good. It's teaches you to read. It comes with lots of parts and components. It has word cards, phrase cards, letter cards. You still use the light units like I mentioned before. You also have 4 readers that it comes with. Like I said, it is very thorough, but because of it being so thorough, it is very effective. And so this is definitely a top pick for me if you want a more traditional, very thorough, in-depth way of teaching your child to read. I highly recommend Learning to Read from Christian Light Education. The next thing that I want to talk about is if you have a child who maybe is not grasping the concept of reading quite as well, or if you have a child who has something like dyslexia, then I have a couple of recommendations for that as well. One of my sons is dyslexic, and it has really been a struggle to find something that is effective for him in getting him to read. So last year, at the beginning of the year last year, we started a program called Pride Reading Program. It is specifically designed for children who have dyslexia, processing disorders, apraxia of speech, things of that nature. It is very intensive, but it is very, very effective. It was the program for us to get him to the point of reading, and I can't recommend that program enough. I don't have it with me because we finished that level last year, and but I did want to put that out there. There are some videos about Pride Reading down in the comment or in the description as well. But to go along with that, I know this is one that is commonly recommended and talked about, but because the Pride Reading was so intensive, not only for my son, but also for me, because it requires 45 minutes or more every day of very intensive learning. This year we felt like he was at a point where we could continue with something that uses the Orton-Gillingham method, but maybe isn't quite as intensive, and so we moved on to All About Reading. This has been excellent. This is great even for a child who doesn't have those difficulties with reading. So it's very hands-on in that it has like letter tiles that you can, we use the app now, but you move the letter tiles around to build the words and label the words and things like that. It has all kinds of fun little games for the student sheets that you play. They also, in my opinion, have hands down the best readers that I have ever seen in a reading program. The stories are engaging, they're colorful, they're just a lot of fun. And so this has been a great curriculum to transition into for my son. And I think I am actually going to transition one of my other sons into this program next year as well. Just because he's not a struggling reader, but he's a little bit slower to read, and I think this will be very, very beneficial to him. And so this is definitely a favorite for me as well. Now, along those lines, I do want to say, over the years, we have used something as just an extra added resource to teaching our children to read, and that is the Explode the Code series. So the Get Ready for the Code set of books is actually what I love and prefer to use for ramping up to start kindergarten, and I'm going through this with my preschooler right now. She loves it. It's very engaging. There are teacher books that go with this series, which I don't know that a lot of people realize. If you use the teacher book as written, it's actually a pretty full program of teaching your child how to read using mastery-based phonics. These have always accompanied my kids' reading. For me personally, I use it mainly as independent work that they can grab and complete 2 to 3 pages a day on their own while I'm working with other kids until I'm ready to actually do their reading lessons. And it's just, like I said, a mastery-based phonics approach. So it's really good to add in just as an extra resource, or like I said, grab that teacher book and use it as a full program. And so I know you guys have probably heard of Explode the Code, but I just wanted to say, as an 8-year homeschooling mom, I have never strayed from Explode the Code. I have used it with all of my kids. So now that we've talked about reading programs, let's talk about once our kids start to get into that grammar age and stage. Okay, so we have used a few different things as far as grammar goes. We've used the Christian Light Education Language Arts. It's not my favorite, but it's very effective. We have used analytical grammar, which is really intense. First language lessons is a great one to use, especially early on when you want to start introducing those concepts of grammar. But as my kids have gotten older, I am really enjoying using the Fix It Grammar series from IEW. It is very clear cut. I love how it uses actual literature, actual stories. It will give them a sentence from the story that day with a vocabulary word to define, but also labeling parts of speech. It teaches them incrementally different parts of speech and what to look for. It's just a really good, thorough program. I did a video recently on this as well, a closer look inside Fix It Grammar, because they just recently revamped this series. There's also some other things that you can do if you have a child who is more kinesthetic as far as learning goes. My friend Jennifer over at Family of 3 Homeschool actually did that for her daughter, where she took this program and then used these little printable cards that were magnets that she could move around on the board to label the parts of speech, which I thought was genius. And I think I might actually do that next year, not because my son is kinesthetic or anything, but just because it's just an added thing to add into the learning process, which I think is always good to engage the brain in different ways. And so just remember, I guess, you can always make curriculum work for you. But this is definitely a favorite. It's a very simple way to implement learning grammar, but it's also very effective. So in regards to reading and language arts, we also are trying to work our way into getting more serious about writing. And for me, that has been a very intimidating process, because writing is something that comes much easier for me, and I don't really know where to begin. It's a frustrating thing for me to teach, because for me, because the writing process is a little easier, for my older boys, it is not easy for them. It doesn't come easy for them. And so that has been a point of frustration for me personally. And so that is why, once again, IEW has been excellent for us in our homeschool. Their Structure and Style series is what we started with, just to learn the structure and style of how their writing program works. Now, it is very structured. It uses a lot of like outlines and things like that. But it has been really, really good for my boys, because like I said, not that the writing process is hard for them, because I mean, they can write. If you tell them to write a descriptive sentence about something, they can. That's not the issue. The issue is actually making a cohesive, descriptive, entire piece of writing. I don't know how to describe it. And so they just need the added structure so that they can learn how to do the writing process a little better. And so the IEW Structure and Style series has been excellent for that. I can't say enough good things about it. We actually use the video-based lessons, which has been great for me also, because I actually sit in on the lessons with them, and I'm more so there to kind of facilitate while the video lessons are on the TV screen, and it has been great. So, can't say enough good things about that. All right, next subject series is science. Let's talk about science. So I actually did a homeschool favorites video probably 2 or 3 years ago. I can link it down below as well. Some of those things have changed, some haven't, but I can link it down below. But one of the things in that video that I stated is that I didn't really have a favorite science series yet, but now I do. I have 2 favorite science series that I'm going to share with you guys today, and also a resource that is just a good one for like the younger years, like kindergarten, 1st grade, that kind of thing. Over the years, we have tried a few different science series. We have done a Bob Jones science, which was great, but again, it's the traditional approach. We have done unit studies through the good and the beautiful in the past, and while those things were okay, it wasn't the best fit for our family. And now I have 2 science series that are my favorite. So last year we used from Master Books, or Answers in Genesis, whatever you want to call it, because that's what this is. This is literally the Answers in Genesis science units that Master Books has squished into one thicker series. But we did God's Design for Life last year, and I absolutely loved this. My kids loved this. We had so much fun with it. It's very thorough. It's well done. It works great for kindergarten all the way through the beginning of middle school, really, like 6th grade. It's great for that even. So they do have a younger kids version of God's Design for Life. But last year, my daughter, who was in kindergarten, we used this anyway with her, and she just gleaned and tagged along with us throughout the whole thing without having to purchase that younger version. So that's really good to know if you are a family who has multiple ages, that this works well for multiple ages, and it can be adapted up or down depending on the age. Even if some of it is over their heads, they're gonna glean some, and the exposure to certain topics and things that might be a little over their head, it's still good to have the exposure to it, so that when they come back around and learn it more in depth, when they're at an older age, they'll kind of remember it. It won't be completely new to them. So the God's Design for Life series, like I said, it's excellent. The pictures in this are beautiful. It does have a teacher guide. We didn't use the worksheets and stuff in there as much because there is a lot to read about together, discuss, but just for some of the topics, I wanted to have a little more like fun attached to it. So we did print off a few things from Pinterest as well. But this was a great science series, and I can't recommend that enough. That is definitely a favorite. And this year we are doing Apologia's Young Explorer series with chemistry and physics. Now, the way that Apologia is written, it has a textbook, but then it also has student workbook or journals, whatever you want to call it. And so this year for chemistry and physics, we actually did not use the student notebooks simply because it is so rich in the amount of experiments and things. I just had them keep a journal on the experiments that we did, the observations we made, and things like that. And there was, again, a lot of great discussion. So for this particular series, we did not use that. However, spoiler alert, we are going to be using Apologia again next year, and we are going to be using the student notebooks for the Apologia science that we are doing next year. So they have different ones. Again, this is the Young Explorers series, chemistry and physics. Don't let chemistry and physics scare you away. it's not as intense as what the name sounds. A lot of fun. Lots and lots of experiments. Like I said, they do have earth science, they have anatomy, they have like flying creatures, sea creatures, botany, things like that. So the series is pretty exhaustive. So you're sure to find something that you'll have interest in. And so we have really enjoyed that. That's definitely a favorite of mine. I love the way it's structured, and even the writing and everything in it is very well done. Now, I did want to share a resource with you guys, which is something that I have used with my kids when they are very, very young, for like kindergarten especially. I don't use typically an actual science, except for my kids, like my kindergarten daughter I talked about last year. She was in kindergarten last year, and how she tagged along with us. But typically when they are really young, I don't do an actual science with them. We will just kind of read through and do some fun little activities with the Big Book of Science and Nature from the Berenstain Bears. This is just so fun, and it's going to cover pretty much exposure to everything science-wise that a kindergartner and first grader would like to know, with the cute little illustrations from the Berenstain Bears. So, and what I do with this is I just kind of use it as a guide, and I'll go on Pinterest and just print something free, or we'll do like a nature observation or draw things or whatever. But this is a great little resource for like a kindergarten and first grader. If you don't want to do an actual science curriculum yet, this is a great option. Now, as we're wrapping this up, I'm going to talk about history. Again, I have done several videos talking about story of the world. This is probably one of my favorite spines to use for history, and I say spine because this isn't the only thing we use. I use this as the main thing. We read through it, and then we do further research on the things in the book. So this is history written in story form. I have done several videos on this, which I will also link down below. And it's just a lot of fun because it's written in story form. It's going to give you history is history, and then you can decide how deep you want to go into it, or if you even just want to gloss over it, or if it's a chapter that you don't feel comfortable covering with your child yet, you can just skip it until they're a little older. This is written in 4 volumes: ancient, medieval, exploration, and then modern history. And so we have really enjoyed this over the years, and it is also used by the next curriculum I'm going to share that is a favorite, and that is My Father's World. It is a literature-based history program. So it is literature, history, science, and Bible that are included in this, and it comes with all the read alouds, and it schedules them out and things like that. I have a whole video on this as well if you want to see more in depth. It uses story of the world for history, but then it also uses many other resources alongside it as well. These are just a few, which I think is great to have a lot of different resources to learn your history. And so those would be my favorite histories to choose from. Now, I'm really excited about the history we're going to use next year, which I have shared recently, and I'll put links to those videos as well. We're going to be using BiblioPlan. It is kind of set up the same way as far as it being like literature, Bible, and history. Very excited about that. I can't wait to share more about it as we start to experience it next year. But these are just a few of my favorite ways to do history. And again, there's a lot of things out there. I have used Knotgrass history before. I have used Master Books America's Story series, which we did enjoy very much. We actually did it alongside Story of the World. We did America's Story 1 last year alongside Story of the World Volume 3. It was a great way to learn American history, but also do a read aloud kind of view of what else was happening in the world at the same point in history that we were studying last year. So that was a great combo if you're looking for something like that. If you do want to focus more on teaching American history one year, I would highly suggest using something like Story of the World, just because it is really neat for, I think, and important for our kids to see America wasn't the only place that had history going on at that time. Let's see what else was going on in the big picture of the world at that time. And so the combo of the two was great. Can't recommend that enough. We did enjoy that one a lot. So I hope that this video was helpful for you guys. Like I said, it is a collaboration, so if you want to hear more of people's favorites, I will post a link to that playlist down in the comments. Thank you so much, Ryan, for creating this resource for everybody watching so that parents can come and see what are tried and true favorites in the homeschool curriculum world. And thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope to see you on future videos. Thanks so much, guys, and have a blessed day.
You're the rose in a garden.